All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Coffee Q&A. I'm Jay, your host. We're here at the Coffee Q&A, your daily dose of coffee, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. How y'all doing? Welcome back to the show. We're here talking about peach coffee, not peach co-ferment. I know peach co-ferment's been a big thing. Co-fermented coffees are really popular nowadays. Actually, speaking of but if you're not familiar with co-fermented coffees, basically they are taking coffees, pulping them, or maybe not pulping them, all depends on what they're going to do. But basically what they're doing is they're taking coffees and mixing them during the fermentation process with some kind of quote unquote unnatural additive, right? Like they'll use peach fruit, they'll use strawberry fruit, they use all kinds of fruits. They'll put other types of yeast. They'll do all sorts of things to enhance the flavor of the coffee and to craft something different. Mom, good morning to you. Empty Head, good morning as well. And Kioni, aloha to you as well. And so these coffees within a certain segment of the business has been very well received. You know, it gets new flavors, it's creating excitement, it's bringing new drinkers to the specialty coffee world. But as with anything new, there's always a group of people that are pushing against that are like resisting, that say that it's an abomination against man. Now, I'm a very progressive person, and when it comes to coffee, like I'm all for it. I'm all good about it. There's actually an article that I put in the description of today's show that is from a friend of mine, Christopher Feran. He's a big proponent of like progressive coffee and working with infusions of coffee and co-fermenting. So I think it's all very quite interesting. Peter's with us. What's going on, Peter? Brian, good to see you. Empty Head says, when do we get to brew alcoholic coffee? Brew alcoholic coffee. You mean like use alcohol to brew the coffee? Is that even safe to heat the coffee like that? Oh, we can do that. If that's what you mean, like heating the coffee and then using it as a brewing medium, certainly we can do that. Actually, I was thinking about that the other day because I saw a video somewhere about a guy that was taking whiskeys and flavoring the whiskeys with coffee. And then I had a whiskey this past weekend at the Coffee Fest at Vent Coffee Roasters. So Vent is in this big complex called the Union Collective, the Union Brewing Company that makes beers. And there's a whole bunch of other things. Big winemaking company. There's also Baltimore Spirits Distillery. And they had created, using their Epic whiskey, an infusion with a Peruvian coffee that Vent roasted. And I thought it was really wonderfully sweet. I imagine that it was fortified now that I think of it, but I really enjoyed sipping it and enjoying that. So, Empty Head was just joking. You're talking about, we could try anything. I mean, really. I just saw a video today where someone was taking milk and was it milk, Hershey's, Coca-Cola, and espresso. And I was like, that looks crazy, but maybe we'll try that too. But today what we're talking about is peach, right? Because I have this little peach tree that I've been cultivating for the last, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And, you know, I'm a terrible gardener, terrible. Like this peach tree is in this big pot, which is I probably need to pull it out of the pot by next season and maybe trim the roots like I would with bonsai, right? But anyway, so this thing always has trouble giving me fruit, and the fruit is always small. Like you can see, this is a fairly small piece of fruit. Like as a reference point, this is my iPhone, right? So here's the iPhone, and this is the fruit. And as you can see, it's fairly small. Now, this fruit, so outside, I put a bunch of tomato plants. I grow tomatoes every year. At the roastery, we've been growing tomatoes, and over the last couple of years, I've really been rather successful with some of the tomatoes. One of the things I'm always trying to cultivate, well, not really trying, but I would like to cultivate, is something that I heard about in Japan called 9 bricks tomatoes, where the tomatoes are so sweet that they're like 9 bricks. So it's like super sweet, like 9 to 12 bricks. Actually, I was reading some more about it yesterday because I was asking a friend of mine in Japan. I said, hey, man, can you help me get these? And he's like, yeah, dude, they're everywhere. I was like, oh, very good. And so I'm trying to get the seeds for that. But turns out that they started because they had this flooding in one part of the country where a lot of salt water got onto the crops and basically choked the plants so that, you know, when plants are under duress, they produce differently or more intensely. And so that kind of opened the door to this kind of cultivation. And I've never had them because I'm almost never in Japan at the right time of year to try them. So Peter says, I've seen alcohol with snakes and other critters. I've heard of that. And if they had said, it wasn't formaldehyde. No, that's true. I have seen that. I mean, we put the popular one, of course, is where I think I have a bottle. I thought I had a bottle of it here. El Cusco Rojo, which is the red worm. Is that it? No. Yes, see. So here, there it is. So the El Cusco Rojo, which is a mezcal from Oaxaca, this particular one, right? This is fairly old. You can see that, and I've never opened it because I've been scared, but it's obviously leaking because look how much. But here you can see the Cusano. You can see the little worm that the truly manly will drink. Yeah, when you want to show your friends that you are más fuerte, you will drink that along the way. Yeah, to drink. Yeah, they drink it. It's crazy. But I think the snake ones, they don't consume the snake that's preserved in the alcohol. I think they just, the rattlesnake, I think they use, and they just use it as kind of like a kind of thing. Oh, Peter says you can buy it as souvenirs in Vietnam. Yeah. Oh, don't they drink like cobra blood or something? Cobra blood, maybe not the venom, but proper cobra blood or something there. Kelly says, yes, I've seen snakes, scorpions, and centipedes in alcohol use. Yeah, I think I've only seen videos or maybe in movies they're doing that. I mean, if you think about it, like after a certain point, it's not like it's probably bad. Like, meaning that it won't hurt you. I mean, it's kind of preserved, right? I don't know. They do drink the snake one. Yeah. I mean, the drink they drink, but they don't consume the snake. Or maybe they do. I don't know. Anyway, so we've got the peach, right? And so so like I said, I've been trying to grow tomatoes out here, but since we're kind of in the woody areas and there's lots of deer, my tomato growing has been decimated by deer. Like, it's just, they look pathetic. They're basically like empty vines without leaves down. I'm like, oh God. And I really had some nice tomato varieties that I picked for this season. And I was like, I'm really disappointed. So I walked out one day and I was like, oh my gosh, all my tomatoes are wiped out. But the tree had been untouched. This had been untouched. So I stripped the tree, all 9. They had 9 pieces of fruit on this. And I've been eating them. They're pretty sweet. But now they're getting a little bit on the soft side, right? So because they're getting a little bit old. So now it's time. I got to utilize them. So I figured let's use them today. Full on huge colors. Oh, wow, really? Huge colors, stuff in a bottle, like a shipper. Wow, that's amazing. Is the cap big enough to shove the snake in, or do they do that kind of, I don't know, do they do the thing with the peaches and they grow the peach in the bottle or something like that? That I'm curious about. Okay, so we got a couple peaches here. I've already eaten a few of them, but we got 4 left. We're going to use one for a coffee tip, but we're going to use these other ones because I'm going to make a little bit of a what do you call it? A syrup to use, but we want to. This could be too delicate now for me to do this. Yeah, that's too delicate. Let's use the sharper knife because what I need is this. I'm going to need this. Kione says you should try and co-ferment calamansi. You know what? I would love to co-ferment calamansi. Oh, actually, I should probably do that in the Philippines. That's probably what you mean. Like I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, well, I'm trying to cultivate a calamansi. Like back in May, I was down at the National Arboretum visiting the bonsai and that's already getting bad. We're not going to use that piece. The Bonsai and Penjin Museum, right? Which is the original Chinese style of like bonsai. Like bonsai actually comes from China and it was exported to Japan and then called bonsai, but it was called, I think Penjin is what it's called, right? And so the National Arboretum has this big museum, and across the little roadway from the Bonsai Museum, they have this herb garden, and I was looking at the herb garden in May, and turns out that there was this big calamondin tree, and I looked it up, and I was like, calamondin is calamansi. So I was like, well, and a couple of the fruit had fallen off, and that's not a euphemism for like it fell off the truck. It really had fallen to the ground, and there was no rangers around, just a bunch of tourists, and I was like, can I take this? And I wasn't sure if I could take it, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it. And so I took it, and I drank the juice. I made it into like a little, I drank some of the juice. I made a little bit into a calamansi drink. And then I took the seeds and I planted them. One has propagated. So out of those, maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 seeds, I was able to get one plant, or one plant that's growing, one little seedling now. So hopefully in about 3 years, I will have calamansi here. But to your point, I probably just have to call one of my producers in the Philippines and be like, hey, can you, what do you think about like doing this co-fermenting with, we are really far into this process of ripening. Probably easier if I had boiled it. All right, put that there, fruit there. One more fruit. It's so like flexible that it's hard for the knife to get some purchase. Type snake wine on YouTube. I'm afraid to type those kind of things into YouTube. What kind of euphemism for snake will they give me? Like my friend the other day, we were watching YouTube, and she's like, look at this. And I was like, what are you looking at? And she's like, and so they have these videos online where girls are wearing like very sheer clothing. And I mean sheer. And she was like, can you believe that? I was like, wow, that's craziness. So I'm afraid sometimes to type in certain keywords, because you never know what's going to come up and what you're going to find. Okay, so what am I doing here? What I'm doing is I'm just getting this fruit together because I want to, how does it taste? Tastes like gardening success for like the first time ever. Okay, so we're going to make a little bit of a syrup first with this, because we want to make some basic syrup just to use. You could use it as a syrup for your lattes. If you want to make peach latte, or if you want to make, what do you call it? If you want to make, I don't know, whatever you want to make. Peach kakigori. If you want to put some peach kakigori or shave ice, you certainly can. So we're going to get some sugar. I got a little bit of sugar left over here. We're going to make a simple syrup. And we're just going to take this jar. And the simple syrup we're going to make is going to be fairly simple. I'm going to take this scale, tear it out. Peter says, I have loads of calamansi to make jam, drinks, and preserves. Oh, see, you guys are just like, you guys are just teasing me with this calamansi thing. Calamansi is one of my favorites. Actually, I think my favorite really is this orangey thing called dalandan, which is supposedly some kind of orange mandarin mix. I don't know what it's called in other languages or like in English. I just know it's called dalandan. It is like an orange. And every time I'm in Manila and I go to the farmers markets, there's always these vendors selling freshly squeezed dalandan juice. I'm sure they cut it with some water and sweeten a little bit, but it's ice cold. And man, that is what I do love that. I do love that. Okay, so let's see how much we're going to use. I was going to do this by eyeballing it, which sometimes you can just do that. But basically, we're just going to take it and oh gosh, I'm so bad at this. So bad. All right, so that's more or less half of this jar, which is about 183 grams. Okay, so we got 183 grams. So this way we just know how much water we can put in later. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our fruit But here's our fruit, and I'm gonna just add this. I'm gonna break it out of the pit. I need to plant these pits and propagate them. See if we can propagate more plants for next year. Put that in there. Uh-oh. I have to. There's a little bit of bits of like, skin. I'm not going to worry too much about those. Maybe it'll give it a little bit of a bitterness to it, round it out. Let's break this up. I mean, it's breaking up so easily, so easily. Just make sure you don't put the stem, that's all. Okay, oh, maybe we'll pick that out of there too. Great. Okay, so now we've got 46 grams of our peach, fresh white peach. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick maceration on it while we do everything else. Just put it in here, and then I'm just going to shake it up. And what this will allow to do, it'll start to extract, it'll start to macerate and, cause the water to come out of the fruit, which is kind of what we want. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to, I just decided to do that because I had this extra peach. That wasn't really going to be the focus of today's show. Really, today's show is about using peach to flavor coffee, right? So we talk about these peach co-ferments and all that. And, like, for example, like what I think a lot of people that are, okay, so there's a discussion I'm having with, or was having on the Instagram account of Perfect Daily Grind, which is an online news source for coffee things. And they always have these discussions. And like we were talking about the co-fermented thing. And like, one of the things I think about the co-ferments, I'm all for them, right? Like, one of my producers, actually Rusty's mom, when I first met her in 2008, she was doing co-fermented stuff. It wasn't called co-fermented. She was experimentations, what we were calling them. And, she did things like pineapple juice fermentation, Pepsi Cola fermentation, all this crazy stuff. And I remember tasting those, back in 2008. So to me, very interesting. Empty Head says lychee, 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 or lychee, lychee, lychee. I agree. Agree, because again, if I could have a world of lychee, calamansi, dalandan, and now decopon, I'd be very happy. I'd be very happy with those selections of fruits. And what I also discovered was, I guess rediscovered, but dragon fruit. Like when we were in Brazil, dragon fruit was so good. Of course, in the United States, it's like $7 for one dragon fruit. So you're like, well, maybe I won't buy dragon fruit today. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the last peach, and now I'm going to peel that. Let's go back to peeling. And then we're going to weigh the peach. Or actually, we're not going to weigh the peach. We're going to... We'll see. We'll see. I don't know what we're going to do, really. So the idea is, let's use the peach as kind of a flavoring. And this is definitely by no means supposed to mimic the idea of peach co-fermentation. But I also wonder, these people, they're like, one of the critics is that, it makes the coffee taste like peach. And you'll hear people say things like that. It makes the coffee taste like peach. I don't know if it really does. I don't know if I would agree with that, but I thought that since we have fresh peach, why don't we try seeing how it turns out with the brewing of the coffee, right? Okay, so we got our peach all set up. There's this TikToker online. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's an African-American guy that has dreads. He travels around America. He's trying out different carry-out type food places. And he was here in the Baltimore area in DC, Virginia this last week. And he created quite a stir because wherever he goes, people love him. And the people flock to the restaurants he goes to visit and reviews. And so he was here in Baltimore. He went to a place called Rooted Rotisserie and rave reviews. And now I'll never get to go there for another like 6 months. But he also he released a video recently that said that he went to 12 places in the region, mostly in DC, and said that the majority of he's only releasing 3 of them. So 9 of them he just thought was unworthy of release because he's a good person. You know, he's not going to bash on a place. But he showed some pictures of screen captures of some of the food, and it looks pretty rough. And so some people are upset with him. Some people are, you know, lauding him for that. But what I was thinking about was, you know, he does these reviews, and I think he's fairly honest, which is what we want. And you know what? I'm babbling on because now I've lost that train of thought, and we're just going to keep going as though I never talked about it. So what we're going to do is we'll use our Guatemala H Tango. This is a coffee that actually I picked up or, you know, brought in because we got an event on Saturday at Capital Cigar and Tobacco here in Bethesda, Maryland. So if you have the time, 12 to 3, we'll be tasting the Guatemala H Tango. And it's from HH means Huehue Tenango, which is a region of Guatemala. This is a relatively nice, you know, great, approachable coffee. It's a Huehue Tenango region. It is a strictly hard bean. It's what's called SHB, and which means that it's grown at least above 1,300 meters, because the higher the meter, right, the higher elevation, the slower the growth, the denser the bean, right? And then it's also what's called EP, which is beans European prep. And European prep is basically a coffee that has to go under, it's a more commercial designation, but EP generally means that your bean size is nothing smaller than 15, nothing smaller than 15, and that there are a maximum of 8 allowable defects per sample of 300 grams. So a lot of times when you're trading coffee, you'll get a sample of 300 grams of coffee for evaluation. And as long as your secondary defects are below 8, it can be considered European prep. Evidently, there is an American prep, but the standard is lower, meaning that you can have more defects per 300 grams. But that tends to fall out of the specialty realm. A lot of the EP will fall into specialty, so that's a nice thing about that. You can offer calamansi online here. You can order calamansi online here for about $2.50 a kilo. See, you guys are just like, that's just not nice. That's not nice. Empty Head says, a fruit I haven't seen in a really long time, the Japanese pear apple. You know, I don't know if I've ever had that. I've had the Korean ones, the big ones, but I've not had the Japanese one. George says, Keith Lee is full of it. He eats in his car, grossly misjudged. Well, I think I don't know. I mean, I looked at some of the photos that he posted, and I don't know if I would have tasted them, right? Even the one that he said the chicken smelled like fish, like I would have tasted it at least, just because I tend to taste it just because you never know. Like maybe that fishy oil might contribute something to your chicken. I mean, when I make fried chicken, my mom's Filipino style fried chicken, it's basically patis and rice, patis and lemon, and you infuse that. I'm giving you my secrets with, but then you infuse that into the marinate that in the chicken and deep hard fry that sucker, man. There is very few fried chickens that I love more than that. And that's fish. That's fish. Patis is fish sauce. So nashi pear. Peter's trying to feel it. Oh, thank you for mentioning the little parties. Yeah, we're going to be, if you guys have time, come down. We're going to be tasting this coffee and pairing that with the EPC line, Ernesto Perez Carrillo line of cigars. George has selected those cigars for us. All right, so let's brew this coffee. We're going to use our normal ratio of 24 grams of coffee for brewing. So this will also, I was going to say this will also help me prepare for it, but then I'm going to adulterate this thing. So maybe it won't help me prepare at all. All right, 24 grams. And for this, we're going to brew with yesterday's device, the Cafec Deep 27, because I was thinking that we're going to use the peach in the brew, and I want to concentrate it, right? If we have a big wide basket, then the coffee has a lot of room to maneuver, right? The water has a lot of room to maneuver around the coffee. Here, it's much narrower. Whoops, much narrower. It's going to be very tight, right? My plan is to put a little bit of coffee, sit it in there, put more coffee, and then brew in the middle, right? So let us go on and see what we can do. I'm going to bring in our trusty Baratza Virtuoso. This probably is now what? It is now 2007. I got it used in 2007. So what's that? 14 years. So it's almost, this thing's in high school, at least in high school. Maybe it's graduate high school because I don't know how old it was when I got it. So let's get to grinding. Shinseki Asian pear. There we go. There we go. Oh, I'm glad you like that, George. I hope it'll turn out well. I hope it'll turn out well. All right, there we go. That's all brewed. That's all ground up now. Push that back out of the way. We're going to use the Cafec, right? The Cafec. We're also going to use the Abaca Deep 27 filters. Thank you, Kyoni. This is a lovely, lovely brewer. I wasn't sure about these deep ones, and I've used it a couple times. I'm like, not bad, not bad, not bad. So we got the Deep 27 here. So let's put this. One thing I noticed, especially during yesterday's brewing, that this is actually longer, so it actually sticks out the bottom. So if you're sitting on the table, you don't want to like push it down, right? Because you'll crunch the tip. The tip actually will extend past the bottom. So just be a little bit careful with that. And we're going to get our little thing here. Put that on there. Now, what we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to put a little bit of coffee in the bottom. Oh, no. All this babbling, and I'm going to turn the heater on. Okay, so we got a little bit of coffee down there, maybe a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to take our peach. Okay. Now our peach here, okay, so let me put the scale on. We want to know how much peach we're actually adding to it. Okay, there we go. We can see all that. I'm just going to break it up. I'll peel away that piece there. I really kind of want to eat this. So I'm going to mash it up just a little bit. Just so we get maximum fruit exposure. Okay. Oh, there's some organic matter, not organic matter, but like twiggy matter, woodsy matter. We're not going to put that in there. Okay, so there we go. We got 12 grams. Oh, that is nice. I would not do that normally in a bar setting. Oh, actually, something that Keith Lee did say on his video this week, he was talking about how one of the places he went, they didn't use gloves. And I think that's something that I was like, but then he also said that they didn't wash their hands, which is a major problem, right? Like, I don't really like using gloves because, I think that people rely on gloves too much. So they give the impression that they're clean, but they don't actually, because if you're using gloves, you really need to change them quite a lot. Whereas, I was trained, in kitchens where you would just wash your hands. Wash your hands on the regular well, and you should be fine. So, okay, let's say here we got our coffee in there. I'm going to put a little bit in here. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we get enough. We want it to fall in between. We don't want it to like have cavities inside between the coffee, right? So, between the, okay, so I'm going to do all of that in there. Okay, good. All right, so we've got the coffee I mean, we're at the peach. How much did I say? 27 grams? 12 grams. 12 grams of peach, 24 grams. So we had half of the weight in peaches. I did get that right. 12 grams, right? Half the weight of peaches with the coffee inside. So hopefully that will give us some interesting results. And who knows what we're going to get? I mean, we're going to get whatever we get, and it could be great. It could be foul. But it will be something. It will be something. George asks, is that a different filter? This is it's a different filter in that it's a different style of filter, that it's folded. You know, it is designed for this deep 27. This is the abacus, so it's got a different shape, a more narrower shape than your standard like V60 or Melita number 4 filter. Yeah, as Keone says, it's a deep 27, and the deep 27, as you can see, is deep, narrow, and steep. And I believe that's really so that you concentrate the brew. And that's really what I'm trying to do here, is that I want to concentrate the flow of the water and the extraction of the coffee around the peach. And I tried to, as I was thinking about it, maybe it might be better to layer or stagger, or perhaps maybe put it into a little container first, stir it around so that the peach and the coffee kind of mingle and are more striated throughout the whole bed, rather than in this one clump that, there may be gaps in the clump that we haven't been able to, and I'm reticent to push down too much on it because I don't want to compact it and then create more flow problems, right? Yeah, and George says, Keone, thanks. It's designed for yes, it is designed for use with this particular type of brewer. Yeah, it's cool looking. I do agree. It's cool looking. I kind of wish I had boiled the water earlier. Oh, and there's still water in here. Okay, hold on one moment. We're a little bit mucked up here. Sorry. I can do some housekeeping while we're waiting. We're going to keep the pits because I'm going to try to cultivate the pits today. So I got 4 pits. Nice. Okay. I got to be careful. My shirt is uh-oh. I think we're also running out of butane. Luckily, butane's not terribly expensive. I get these at the Korean market. That's not too far from me. These are, I think, $7 for 4, so it's fairly reasonably priced, I think. I don't know if that's expensive. I'm sure that compared to prices in Southeast Asia, it's definitely expensive. We're in America, so we like to pay more because, we like to pay more for our products because we're free. And we've all been conditioned to know that freedom isn't free, baby. Freedom isn't free. Okay, so we're almost there. Let's go back and look at while we're waiting for that, let's go here and look at our maceration, which is coming along. Like, it's actually, like, if you look here, if you can kind of see here, it's all pretty much clumping together now. So I think it's fairly safe for us to add water. So I'm going to add some water. Oh, I need 183 grams, right? That's what we said. Let's go back and look here. So now let's add 183 grams to this. And we just pour it in. We don't have to necessarily be, 188. That's fine. That's fine. Just a little bit more. So we're just using the basic simple syrup ratio of 1-to-1, equal amounts. And, honestly, you could kind of, if you're really stuck, you can get away with just eyeballing it, right? So there's our peach syrup. And then, like I talked about before, sugar is soluble in water. And regardless of the temperature of the water, you don't have to boil it. I'm not going to boil this. You just got to give it time for it to do its thing. And there we go. We're going to let that start to sit. And we're going to let that infuse for, I don't know, however long we need. All right, so we got the boiling of the water ready. The boiling of the water is almost ready. Let's go back to our setup. Great. Okay, how's that? Better. Empty Head says, throw some yeast in that. We should totally throw some yeast in that. Then it can get it explode. Empty Head also says, they let you know it's good butane. It's good. It is good butane, man. Those Koreans, they love the good butane. So Kenny says it is a Japanese brewer, the Deep 27, and is supposed to pull out the sweetness of the coffee. So it should be interesting. Hopefully it'll be nice and fun. All right, we're going to pour the water in. So it was pretty much a rolling boil. By putting a fresh canister really helped speed that process. And as you might be able to see, I don't know if you can see that in this, but I like to fill it pretty high. I'm going to let it sit for just a couple seconds in order for it to cool off a little bit more. If you remember that episode we did where we talked a little bit more about the temperature of the water and found that if we let it drop to 204 before we started pouring, it was 183 in here, and the coffee gave a little bit more sweetness, a little bit nicer apparition. George says, I'm interested enough to buy one myself since so I think it's the Cafec is available. This is available here in the United States. Cafec does have a U.S. representative based in California. Very nice girl. And she's, they have a website here. I think it's Cafec USA. Okay, let's begin. Okay, we're ready to go. Here we go. All right, we're going to do, let's say 50 grams for pre-infusion. Just trying to get around to the side to make sure that all of it's saturated. Okay, about 56 grams. I'm going to let that just kind of roll. We're at 31 seconds already, so we're just going to keep going then. Now we got that going. Keone, do you have any thoughts on the better pouring practices on this? We're getting good lift, a good amount of, blooming happening. It smells right now just like coffee. I almost decided to go with the Titanic blend because it was a very neutral Brazil Cerrado. And I was thinking maybe the florality of the peach will be better served with a more neutral coffee. This one's not as neutral, but whatever happens. You mean I should order? Well, you don't have to. I mean, it will be cheaper. It is cheaper on Amazon Japan, but you can buy it here. Actually, I was actually going to buy one here when I was in California. I called her up. I said, "Hey, you guys open?" And she's like, "Oh no, we won't be open until next week." And I was like, because they don't have a shop. They just have their offices. And I guess she was away. And so I was like, "Oh man, I was going to come pick up some stuff." Oh, or here's my problem. I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing. Okay, we want to be at 100 grams per minute. So I'm pretty far behind again. I'm always just kind of I'm really just kind of flowing with it, like just watching the cap and it's adding, but I wasn't paying attention to the quantity, the weight quantity. So 195 at 222. Kira says, I've tried several different methods and what you're doing is good. Okay, good. I can't read while I'm pouring. I sometimes just do one blooming pour and then a long, slow pour, and that works well too. All right, excellent. What I tend to do is I just tend to try to ride a certain level with the water and the coffee. 254, 2 minutes, 58 seconds. We're going to be a little bit long in our brew time today. $328, $330, $311. I'm trying to catch up a little bit by going a little bit faster, by trying not to go too fast, right? Peter says, I'm going to try the continuous blooming osmotic flow method. Oh. Okay, 350 and 350. So, 353. I gotta stop. I gotta stop right now. I'm like paying attention to 300. I'm like, I need to keep going. So no. Time to stop. I really need to look up and see what these osmotic flow style is. So the water that I'm using is actually, I pulled that out of my water tower. I get this bottled water from Deer Park for the house. And it's refrigerated, so it's fairly chilly. It's like fairly chill. But as you can see, even though it's cold, it's still hydrating. And you can see the peaches in there. All right, so it looks like our brew is done. It's pretty to watch. Excellent. Especially when the bean is fresh. Yes. Are you taking a dig at me? Is that what you're doing? Are you having a laugh? Is that what you're saying? All right, that's easy enough to get rid of that. Put that in there, and we've got our elixir ready to go, as you can see. Now, I guess the question is, are we getting any kind of, what kind of aromatics are we getting? Let's have a look here. Now, I would think that we would have some kind of peachy quality on the nose, but I don't really get that. And I get more of a roasty sensation, but I don't think, certainly I didn't put a light roast on this, right? Like I didn't put the roast I would put like maybe on a geisha or something like that. This coffee wasn't intended for that. This is really intended for more development. So you can see the coffee is, medium roasted, right? City. And, I'm getting a little bit, I'm not getting peachy sensation. Not that I was necessarily expecting to, but just to note, because, since we are using actual peach fruit in our brewing, does it really give a lot of flavor to it? And I made a critical mistake now that I realized that I did not save any sugar that I could have added to see if it would enhance the sweetness. Yeah, I don't really get, if there is a peach, it's very, very light. And I don't know, at this point, I don't know if I'm saying that am I actually sensing a light peach aromatic, or am I just, conjuring that up in my mind because I'm thinking maybe it should be there, right? Okay, let's have a taste. There's definitely a different character to it. There's definitely like a fruity acidity, but I wouldn't necessarily be able to say, like, at least at this stage when it's still hot, I would not say that it's peach. definitely a lightly fruity acidity is coming through. Keone says, my wife likes the coffee from the Deep 27 over the other brewers. Oh, okay. I like it also and actually use it more than my other ones. And I was actually kind of skeptical about it. I was kind of like, what's that weirdness? But the brews that I've had it on, I've kind of enjoyed. And George says, have a great day, everybody. I've got to head over to the shop. All right, man. Have a great one. Thank you. Empty Head says, the osmotic pour over. I just did one yesterday with some bean I roasted a few hours prior. The first pour being extremely minimal. The bloom is very, very large. Oh, I'm going to look that up and like maybe play around with it some. So it does give. So for those of you who like the light, bright type of coffees, this has made this coffee into having characters reminiscent of that. Like I get no true discernible peach. Like you expect peach, right? Like peach, but it's not peach. It's more like I'm light and bright and happy. For a coffee that may not necessarily be light, bright, and happy, it's a little bit more thoughtful, a little pensive. This is light, bright, and happy now. And actually, that reminds me of something when we do public tastings with people, cuppings or whatever you call it, especially with people that are really new to tasting coffee, or at least thinking about the tasting of the coffee, right? I always encourage them to be like, when you're tasting the coffee, you want to make your notes, write down whatever comes to mind, right? Like whatever it is, just write it down. Don't be shit. Like, you watch coffee people and they're all waxing poetic about, I had this white peach acidity but it's a white peach of ripeness from 32 days that has a Brix level reading of 6.5. What? Right, you get that kind of thing. Or they talk about rose petals and who knows whatever they're talking about. But what I always encourage, members of guests of the public that come in is whatever comes to mind. And I've had them tell me some crazy stuff like, I think it's so accurate to me. It's like, it's so exciting because like these people are like, they're correlating this experience to something in their mind that hopefully if the coffee is good, it's a positive experience. Like, I had people talk about like, it reminded them of Def Leppard. I was like, Def Leppard? It's like, what? It's like, that's kind of awesome. And then some people pull up colors and they're like, oh, it's kind of purple. I was like, it's kind of purple. Right on. And, sometimes I may not understand the connection, right? But I think it's just the beginning for people to start to correlate flavor into vocabulary, into a way that they can help to communicate that. Like, for example, if you've got this coffee that you think is rocking, right? And, your way of describing that is like, Shoot the Thrill by AC/DC. Well, that's pretty epic, right? Like if you can if this coffee conveys something like that to you, I think that, because when we talk about like with friends about our experiences with food or whatever, eating or just anything, we don't necessarily sit down and describe it clinically. Like professionals always want to do clinical descriptions, but they're like, friends are like, dude, it was awesome. It was like this. It was like it totally broke or crashed or whatever. It totally slapped. What does slapped mean? I have no idea what slapped means, but obviously it means that it's great, right? So something to I just thought that off the top of my head. I don't know why. Peter says, everyone drinks coffee and gets all the flavors. All this flavors me. I just get coffee. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, the important thing, I think, as a consumer is to go back to that pleasurable hedonism that we talk about, right? Do you enjoy it? Do you find excitement in it? Do you find value in it? If you do, it's all that matters. Who cares if you can describe it the way that, I don't know, some other coffee guy out there in the world, some foolish guy on YouTube is telling you how it should taste. Whatever, man. As long as it tastes good. In many respects, that's all that matters. The thing that like what like people like myself, that were in positions of like, selling coffee to people, we come up with descriptors really to try to help because if the idea is that coffee is just coffee, right? What makes this coffee different than this coffee, right? Now, obviously, there's differences, and even you understand that and know that from experience. But like, how do we communicate that this is the differences between this and this? Like, this may be milky and sweet. This may be more, pensive and brooding. What are you in the mood for? Pensive and brooding, and then you add a little bit of peach, so it becomes chippy and happy. I think that's really kind of the whole deal there. Now, I wonder if there must be, what I'm curious to know is if I added sugar to this coffee, would that enhance the character, of, this is my home bar. There has to be some packet somewhere of sugar hiding somewhere in my vast, I've got bags and boxes all over the place. As you know, we're still waiting to move. So maybe in here. I've got my StreamYard duck. No sugar packets. Huh. How about, okay, let's try this. I got a little bit of sugar left. Okay, we got a little tiny, teeny, tiny amount of sugar right there, right? So let me just, okay, maybe this and this will be enough. Maybe that'll be the right amount for that. Peter says, actually, I do like funky coffee, so maybe that tastes like mushrooms. Absolutely, absolutely, man. You totally know coffee. If you drink coffee, you know coffee, right? It's people like myself. People like myself, our job is to just give you access to other coffees for you to try, for other coffees for you to like. Otherwise, you'd just be at the grocery store looking at whatever's at the grocery store thinking, okay, this is my world of coffee, and which is perfectly fine. But like, if you're interested in other things, the grocery store may not always be the right place to get it, right? Okay, will we have any, so there's no discernible difference in look. I don't know if that's even enough. It's just a hint of change. But interesting nonetheless. However, still, no. Every once in a while, I'll see like a packet of Maui Sugar or something like that just lying around. And as with anything in the world, whenever you'll see these items that you want to use or you think about, I'll use it one day. And the moment that you could use it, who knows where it went. All right, so we got our peach. So as you can see here, the peach syrup is going to need, when it finally gets done, you can see the pulpy matter is just kind of floating. So that's going to have to be strained or maybe not strained at all. I don't know. If I was using this on kakigori, I'd probably blend this a bit more to get the pulp fully blended and in suspension. And if I really wanted to hold in suspension, then maybe I would shear in some xanthan gum to kind of give it more thickness and viscosity. But I wonder, let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at it right now. So there it is. I wonder if we just added, let's see if we added that to our coffee. Just a little bit. Just like that. That's definitely gonna taste like something. Oh yeah. Oh gosh, too much. Oh, but nice flavor. It is a nice peach. Wine and fungus. Oh, speaking of mushrooms. Oh, I think some people would consider this sweetened coffee. This coffee this coffee that's been brewed with peach that has now been sweetened with peach syrup. I think there are people that would consider this an abomination. Oh, but it's quite lovely. Enjoyable, like chugalicious kind of thing. I think for tonight's Coffee and Cigars live stream, I'm going to use this in the live stream. But Peter, like I was saying with the mushroom, you mentioned mushrooms, reminds me there's a coffee company in Seoul, Korea called Immunica. Yeah, Immunica. The owner, the guy, is a really great guy, really fun guy to hang out with. But we got to him some of his coffee. What he's not using mushrooms as the coffee. He's using a process that incorporates mushrooms in the processing of the coffee. Interesting stuff. Really expensive. Like, I think it's $150 a bag. I got some of it. We'll brew that up one day and then talk about it. Peter says, put a jar full of limes and cover it with salt. Makes a great medical. Oh, so a jar full of limes, like whole limes, and then cover like totally like immersed in salt. Is that correct? Which reminds me, I have to go buy more salt. I usually buy salt. I like the San Marino sea salt. I get them from one of the local gourmet food distributors in 25-pound sacks. It takes me a few years to, actually it takes me like 10 years to go through it. But fabulous. I use that for everything. I use it in lieu of everything else. All right. Okay, fully covered. Remember that. How long do you leave it in there? I will wait. I'll wash my hands too. Plus, I'm going to rinse this off. Oh, Empty Head says the whole suggestion is to double the water in grams and dose. Yeah, no, the whole suggestion to double the water in grams. Oh, for the bloom. Oh, I was just normal. Okay, so I see what it took me a moment to understand. I saw that you said for the bloom. So when at Hamden, what we were doing was we would use V60s and we would actually pour 75 grams in the first 30 seconds for the bloom. I'm not really following necessarily a hardcore standard on this show. It's more about like kind of what we feel like trying at the moment. A lot of times I've been trying to do the pour. So if we're using 24 grams, I've really been interested in like what I'm actually thinking about when we're brewing, trying to get it, the whole bed wet evenly. It usually will take the equivalent weight in water. So at 24 grams of coffee, it'll start to fall about 24, 25 grams. If I'm pouring in one position, it starts to fall, I think, around 17. So it's a little bit different. But I'm not necessarily holding to a double. Like today was just double because I honestly, that 50 was just kind of arbitrary. I was just thinking, well, what number should I start? Oh, let's say 50. Let's try 50 and see if that does anything. It could have been a factor in prolonging today's brew, right? Because it did take like over 4 minutes for us to finish the brew. But, that's also because I wasn't necessarily paying attention to the pacing, right? I was just kind of watching. Today, I was just watching after we raised the water to saturate the coffee bed, I would just watch it fall and then add water to bring it back up, let it fall, bring it back up, let it fall, bring it back up, without necessarily paying attention to how much total volume of water I'm pouring versus the time that's elapsed. Typically, we talk about like I try to keep it like 100 grams per minute so that we finish with 350 grams right around 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Today was a little bit over because we didn't finish pouring the 350 till right about 4 minutes. So it probably took closer to 5 minutes in order for it to fully brew. So there's no necessarily, I don't know if there's a yay or nay on that yet. It's more just kind of like, we're just seeing what happens and if there's any significant impact. One thing I did over the last, several weeks or few months or whatever, one of the things that I did think was kind of impactful was this boiling of the water. So typically I'll bring it to a hard boil and then we'll pour. And then a lot of times I've really been kind of cavalier about just take it out here into this whatever room temperature. So typically in here, it's about 74 probably. So this vessel is a 74. You put it in here, this 212 degree water that's, falling as it's coming out into it. So it's probably 208, 209. When it hits here, it drops down even further, maybe to 205, because, there's only so much mass in this. It's not a really, as you can see here, it's not terribly thick, right? It's fairly thin. And that one day when we were actually testing measuring the temperature, we let it fall to 204 in the kettle and then started to pour. And then we did a measurement in the actual water bed, in the coffee bed, and it was to 183, which was kind of surprising because I always thought that it would be much higher in the 190s. Because we always, in coffee, we always talk about, we want to brew to 198, 195, or whatever, but we're actually brewing 183. At least in that time. And that actually produced a coffee that was, I thought, appreciably better, more sweeter. So, the nice thing about this is we talk about it and we try different things on different days. And it does help me to figure out maybe there's a different path. Maybe there's something we can refine. And so as far as, 50 grams for the bloom, I don't know. I don't know if it made a heavy impact on it, perhaps. I thought what probably really made the impact today was more about using the fruit, which I thought would give more of a peach flavor impression, where really it was just more about making it kind of light and crispy, a little bit more acidity, a little brighter, a little bit happier. I mean, I use happy as a description, but that's kind of the feeling. It uplifted the coffee from it being a more roasted coffee. You would think that with this roast profile, it's not normally that bright, but this increased the brightness and kind of made it fun. So, but we didn't really get the heavy peach. Now, of course, the heavy peach comes in when we put the sweetened syrup, which is fun. I would like to have this over ice and chugging in the heat. So Keone says the salt. Peter says weeks of time. Okay, weeks of time. And Keone says, we used to use that in Hawaii, put it in a jar with salt and put it on the roof. Oh, all right. Do the limes dry out or ferment? Dan's asking. The salt and heat draws the fluid out of the limes and you have liquid with sort of preserved limes. Oh, juices comes out and the fruit becomes preserved. You can consume both. So but these are being used for medicinal purposes or as consumables like food. Oh, nice. Yeah, they did that. That's interesting. Closest I've had was pickled limes. It makes a nice so it's a medicinal drink if you have a cold. Oh, I see. So so I presume that eventually the lime becomes macerated, right? So it releases its moisture and there's a liquid. It becomes a liquid syrup. Is that correct? And then you use that liquid syrup to make a drink. Is that correct? That would be fun with calamansi. Both. Okay, gotcha. Oh. All right. Keone says, in Asia, they often add salt to fruit to bring out the sweetness. Yes. I'll do that with cherries a lot. Cherries, I'll dip that in salt. Have you tried another thing I saw a friend of mine turn me on to? If you take sweet oranges, drizzle with olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and cracked black pepper. Whew, maybe a little bit of salt as well. Ooh, my God. He was like, try that. I was like, what? Try that? Try what? Crazy? I'm not trying that. That sounds gross. And then it was quite delicious. Okay, so Peter says food and for sore throat. Okay, great. Green mango and salt. Oh, that sounds... I'm Filipino, so we do green mango and what we call bagoong. Bagoong is basically little tiny baby shrimp that are salted and mashed. And it's kind of this wonderful concoction that you use now. Now, there's one that you buy that you can get it, and it's super bright, pink. This strange, off shade of pink, but it's Those are fine. Like if you have that, that's what you get. But if you get the alimag, what's it? Alimag, I think it's called. But basically, what they do is they take the bagoong, and you can buy it this way. You can make it yourself. So if you buy the really bright pink one, take that, get some oil, heat in a pan, add the bagoong, and cook it till it darkens, and then you put that back in the jar, and you're like all set, and then you're just like. So. While mango and salt is nice, the bagoong and green mango is, in my opinion, off the hook. Peter says you need Thai sweet green mango. You guys have all this stuff that we don't have here in America, or at least it's hard to get. Maybe I'm going to go to the groceries, the Asian market today. All right, so time for me to run off. I got my nephew here. We're going to go and do some exploring today. Back again tomorrow. Kieran says green mango with salt, sugar, chili pepper. Oh, yeah. You know, speaking of which, before I sign off, this is something I don't know if this is a source of pride or source of shame, but this is Cuervo Especial tequila. And why is it this weird color? Is because in Hawaii, we put lihing moi and infuse that into the tequila and shoot it. And sometimes you'll mix it with like Sprite and drink it. I remember we had a few raucous nights doing that. And I've made this probably in 1996. And I've never drank it because you know what? That was just too much. It was too much. One should not consume lihing moi tequila like we did in those days, and I haven't done it since. All right, so you guys have a great one. See you guys tomorrow. Back again. We'll be talking more about the coffees that we're going to use in. I'm not sure what Mung Duo Moi is, but it's probably very similar.